I wasn't supposed to be home before sunset. The city traffic on a Friday night usually swallows me whole, but a last-minute client cancellation meant I was standing in my own driveway a full hour earlier than anyone expected. The late summer air smelled of freshly cut grass and the faint sweetness of honeysuckle from the fence line. For once, I wasn't clutching my laptop bag like a shield. I carried only a small tote and the quiet satisfaction of a week well won. But the moment I eased the key into the front door, a sound snapped the calm in half, drawers opening, the thud of boxes sliding across hardwood. I froze. Mom's voice, low and brisk, carried down the hall. "Careful with those dishes, Mark. We'll pack the rest of our clothes next." My heart lodged somewhere between my ribs and my throat. Clothes? Pack. I stepped inside. The familiar creak of the old oak floor betrayed me. Mom's head popped around the corner of the living room, her face lit with a guilty surprise I hadn't seen since I caught her sneaking Christmas gifts when I was 10. "Olivia, you're home early," she said, smoothing a wisp of silver hair behind her ear. Behind her, Dad, Mark Carter, steady as a stone, taped a cardboard box shut with the precision of a man who had already made up his mind. What are you doing?" I asked. Mom's smile wavered. "Sweetheart, we're just helping you. We thought we'd get a head start on your move. That tiny studio you signed for, it'll feel less overwhelming if we handle some of this now." A rush of heat burned across my chest. I hadn't told them I was moving yet. Not really. And certainly not into a tiny studio. I can still remember the day everything cracked like a porcelain plate dropped on tile. I was 21, sitting cross-legged on the beige carpet of my childhood bedroom, half-packed boxes scattered around me. The faint smell of lemon furniture polish floated through the hallway, a smell that, for years, had meant comfort. That evening, it felt more like warning. "Olivia," my father's voice called from the doorway, the syllables clipped and careful. He leaned against the frame, arms crossed. "Your mother and I need to talk." I looked up, a roll of packing tape still in my hand. His eyes, a steel gray I used to think matched the sky before a summer storm, refused to meet mine. Mom followed him in, her pearl earrings catching the glow of the bedside lamp. She perched on the edge of my bed like a guest afraid to stay too long. "Honey," she began, smoothing an invisible wrinkle from her skirt, "we've decided it's time you start planning for something more realistic." "Realistic?" My voice cracked. Dad exhaled through his nose. "This whole idea of staying here to build your photography business, Olivia, it's not sustainable. We found a studio apartment near downtown. Tiny, yes, but affordable. We put down the deposit. You can move in next week." The room tilted. For months, I had worked double shifts at a cafe, saved every tip, and built a modest but loyal client list, newborn shoots, graduation portraits, even a wedding last spring. They knew this. Still, they'd been making plans behind my back. "You packed my things?" I whispered. My throat tightened, a lump pressing hard against the words. Mom's hand twitched toward mine, then stopped. "We're only trying to help you move forward, sweetheart. Sometimes parents have to make the tough calls." The packing tape slipped from my fingers and bounced across the carpet with a hollow sound. My hands trembled, and I clenched them into fists until my nails bit my palms. From the hallway, Grandma May's voice, soft, steady, floated in like a lifeline. "Olivia, sugar, come here a minute." I followed her to the porch, the evening air cool against my flushed cheeks. She pressed a worn leather camera strap into my palm. "Your grandfather used this for decades," she said. "He always told me, don't let anyone crop your dreams." The strap smelled faintly of cedar and old film. I slipped it over my shoulder, the weight a quiet promise. Inside, I heard the dull thud of another box being closed. But out there, under a sky streaked in rose and gold, I made my own silent vow. They might pack my things, but they would never pack away my future. I still remember the first night I spent in that cramped sublet in Brooklyn, the air heavy with the smell of fresh paint and someone else's old life. The floors creaked like they were judging every step I took. I had one suitcase, a secondhand laptop, and a savings account that barely scraped 4 digits. But there was something else too, a spark. Not the kind you can photograph or explain over a text. The kind that hums in your chest and refuses to quiet down. That spark grew every time I replayed my mother's words in my mind. It's for your own good, Claire. A studio is more appropriate for someone like you. Someone like me. The phrase stung like a paper cut you don't notice until lemon juice hits it. By day, I answered phones at a boutique marketing agency in Soho, my voice perpetually caught between politeness and exhaustion. By night, I devoured every scrap of knowledge I could find, free online courses in digital strategy, brand storytelling, analytics. My chipped coffee mug became my most reliable companion. Sometimes, when the screen blurred from too many late-night lessons, I'd hold the silver locket my grandmother had given me, her own initials engraved on the back. She told me once, "You'll outgrow the cage they built for you." That locket became my quiet rebellion, the weight of it on my neck reminding me of a future only I could design. The first break came from an unexpected ally. Valerie Whitman, a sharp-eyed creative director at the agency, overheard me pitching a concept while the rest of the team struggled for ideas. After the meeting, she cornered me by the copy machine. "You ever think of doing more than answering phones?" she asked, eyebrow arched. I blinked, unsure if it was a trap. "All the time," I admitted. "Good," she said. "I need an assistant who thinks like you." It wasn't glamorous. I fetched her almond milk lattes, wrangled last-minute client decks, and occasionally soothed her temper when deadlines loomed. But Valerie saw me, really saw me. She challenged every half-baked idea, and when I delivered something strong, she let me know. Under her mentorship, I learned how campaigns lived and breathed, how to balance art and data until they sang. The promotions came slowly, almost invisibly at first, a raise here, a title change there. But when a major fashion brand signed on and the client praised my pitch, I knew I'd crossed an invisible threshold. Meanwhile, my parents still believed I was barely scraping by. I let them. My social media was a careful mix of coffee shop snapshots and vague captions, enough to keep them from worrying, never enough to reveal the truth. 4 years later, I wasn't just working campaigns. I was running them. My name, Leah Morgan, not Emily Carter or any other family echo, was printed on a corner office door that overlooked the Manhattan skyline. The locket still rested against my collarbone as I closed another six-figure deal. The girl who once tiptoed around her parents' expectations had built an empire they couldn't imagine. And for now, I preferred it that way. I heard the key turn in the front door before I even reached the top of the staircase. For a moment, the sound felt foreign, like an echo from a life I'd locked away years ago. My heart tightened, but I steadied myself. Tonight wasn't about nerves. Tonight was about truth. When the door swung open, the late autumn air rushed in, carrying with it the soft crunch of fallen leaves. My mother stepped inside first, her pale pink scarf slightly crooked. Behind her came my father, shoulders hunched, as if the weight of the evening pressed down before he even knew what awaited him. "Madison," my mother said, her voice tentative, like she was testing the air. We hope this isn't a bad time." "Not anymore," I thought. Out loud, I said, "It's the perfect time. Come in." Their eyes darted around the open loft, taking in the high ceilings and the warm amber light spilling across the hardwood floors. A massive black and white photograph of the Brooklyn Bridge stretched across the far wall, its metallic frame catching the glow of the Edison bulbs I'd carefully strung along the windows. "This is a lovely," my mother whispered, running her fingers along the edge of the marble kitchen island. She used the same tone she once used to compliment a stranger's dress at church, admiration laced with quiet envy. My father cleared his throat, eyes snagging on the sleek leather sofa and the glass coffee table stacked with hardbound art books. He'd always said those books were for people who didn't have real work to do. "You've done well," he finally said, his voice gravelly. I walked toward the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city lights glittering like scattered diamonds below. My reflection stared back at me, steady, composed. The same woman who'd left their house years ago with a single duffel bag and a spine of pure determination. Do you remember? I began, turning slowly, the day you both told me it was time to grow up, that my art would never pay the bills? My mother's cheeks flushed a soft rose. My father shifted, the sound of his shoes scuffing against the oak floor filling the silence. I remember, he said finally. We wanted you to be practical. We thought we were helping. I moved closer, my heels clicking like a metronome. Helping, I repeated, letting the word linger. The night I came home early, you were boxing up my things. You had already found me a tiny studio apartment, remember? Said it was time I learned to live within my means. My mother's eyes softened. Madison, I needed that night. I cut in gently, but firmly. I needed the shock, the betrayal, because it pushed me out of your shadow and into my own light. I reached behind the kitchen island and slid out a flat portfolio. Laying it open on the counter, I revealed the cover of Art and Vision magazine, this month's issue featuring my latest installation on the front page. The headline blazed across the glossy surface. Madison Clark, redefining urban art. My father leaned forward, blinking hard. This is yours? All of it, I said. The gallery downtown, the murals across the city, the commissions from 3 different states, the partnership with the architecture firm. I gestured toward the framed contract hanging beside the bar cart, the ink of my signature bold against the cream paper. Silence swelled. Only the faint hum of the city below filled the room. My mother finally reached out, fingertips brushing the magazine's edge. You never told us. You never asked, I replied, my voice steady, but not unkind. I wanted you to see me, not the version you decided I should be. My father exhaled, a sound half sigh, half surrender. Madison. He stopped, words failing. I gave a small, almost wistful smile. I built this life while you thought I was barely scraping by. I wanted to prove to myself more than anyone that I could. And I did. They both stood there, surrounded by the evidence of the life they once doubted I could create. The sculptures along the hallway, the paintings leaning casually against brick walls, the quiet hum of success in every corner. For the first time in years, I felt the shift, the quiet transfer of power, not cruel, not vengeful, just complete. I folded my arms across my chest, leaning casually against the edge of the marble island in my kitchen. My parents sat stiffly at the dining table, the same table they once told me I'd never need, because I wouldn't have guests of my own. My brother, Jason, shifted uncomfortably in the leather chair, his eyes darting between me and the floor. For the first time in years, the silence worked in my favor. I said slowly, when I came home that day and found you boxing up my things, you told me you were helping me. Helping me start fresh in a studio the size of a closet. My voice didn't crack this time. It steadied with each word. But the truth is, you weren't helping me. You were erasing me. My mom opened her mouth to speak, but I raised a hand. Not yet. You'll get your turn. I watched the shock ripple through them. They weren't used to me taking control of the conversation. But this was my home. My rules. Jason finally cleared his throat. So, what happens now? I let the question hang, pretending to consider it. In reality, I had rehearsed this moment for years. What happens now, I said, is that things change. But only if you're willing to meet my conditions. My dad frowned. Conditions? Yes. I stepped closer, my heels clicking against the hardwood floor, each sound punctuating my words. If you want to be part of my life again, if you want a chance to rebuild trust, there are rules. I turned to Jason first. You're going to get a job. A real one. Not some half-hearted gig where mom and dad bail you out. You're smart, Jason, but you've been lazy. I'll help you with a lead at one of my partner firms, but you'll stand on your own 2 feet. No excuses. His jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. That was progress. Then I looked at my mom. She sat with her hands clasped tightly, the same hands that once packed away my framed photographs without asking. Mom, you've always tried to control everything, including me. If you want a relationship with me, that has to stop. You don't get to dictate my choices, my career, my home, or my future. You can love me, but you can't own me." Tears welled in her eyes, but she nodded faintly. Finally, I faced my dad. "And you," I said softly. "You told me I was a dreamer who'd never make it, that I'd come crawling back. Well, I didn't. I built this life, without your help. So here's my condition. You stop underestimating me. Not just me, women in general. Because I won't tolerate your dismissive comments anymore." For a moment, the room was still. My father's face flushed red, but instead of snapping back, he dropped his gaze. I exhaled, letting the tension break. "These are my terms. Take them or walk away. But understand this, my life will move forward either way. The difference is whether you'll be a part of it." I could see it in their faces. Shame, fear, but also a flicker of realization. They weren't holding the power anymore. I was. And for the first time, they knew it too. The late, summer sun poured soft amber light across the wide-paned windows of my living room, painting the oak floors in honeyed streaks. For the first time in years, the quiet inside the house felt gentle, like a pause instead of a wound. 3 weeks had passed since that night. My parents' visits had become different. Shorter, yes, but also lighter. Mom now arrived with a basket of herbs from her garden, her fingers smelling of rosemary and rain. Dad brought along his own awkward attempts at conversation, asking about my projects, about the gallery shows I'd never told him about. They were small steps, but steps nonetheless. I watched them try, and for the first time, I believed the trying might last. From the armchair across the room, my grandmother's quilt, faded blue squares stitched together in uneven rows, caught the evening glow. That quilt had been folded in the very box I found my parents packing that night, when they were helping me move into a life I hadn't chosen. Back then it felt like one more thing being taken from me. Now it felt like something returned. I lifted the quilt, tracing the crooked seams with my fingertips. "No one gets to write your story but you," Grandma had whispered to me the day she gave it. I had clung to those words through every sleepless night and silent setback. Tonight, those words no longer felt like armor. They felt like truth. My phone buzzed with another gallery inquiry, a curator from Chicago this time. I let it ring, smiling. The old urgency to prove myself had softened into something steadier. I wasn't racing anymore. I was simply living the life I had built, brick by patient brick. A breeze drifted through the open window, carrying the scent of late-blooming jasmine. I pulled the quilt over my shoulders, its weight a quiet promise. Some stories begin with someone else trying to pack you into a smaller life. Mine ends with me unfolding the space I claimed for myself. I am not the girl they thought they could box away. I am Harper Lane, and every inch of this life is mine.